2020 is here. This is the first episode of the alternative for the new year. I'm here stumbling all over my words. I'd have it no other way to ring in the new year. I would usually have my co-host Colin with me, especially since it's the first episode of the year, Colin, but that's all right. As always, my main man's pulled through. My man from Pro Wrestling Journal Podcast, Drew Ortman. What's going on, man? Thank you for filling in for Colin this week. In all seriousness, Happy New Year to you and the listeners and to you, Colin. Where can everyone catch you, Drew? And all that goodness.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man. Thanks for having me. Always enjoyed coming over and doing the show with you. Catch me Twitter at Drew Ortman, at kayfabe today, at PW Journal, ProWrestlingJournal.com for all your wrestling needs, or some of them, a lot of them.
And this podcast, we've made it. We made it big time. We debuted episode 1, 2019. Look back, catch us over there and all the other fantastic writers. ProWrestlingJournal.com, just like Drew said. What are you waiting for? Get over there and do it. And what are you waiting for? Also, get over there on Twitter. Follow me at the Hibiki TMD. That red button, hit it right down below. All the best retro gaming and pro wrestling. I don't know how I'm still alive, Drew. I just did 12 streams in 7 days for Christmas, but I'm here. I am ready. We've had a week off from AEW and Dynamite. They did a best of show last week, so there was no show, obviously, last week. So I'm refreshed. The batteries are charged. I'm ready to do this. My first podcast of the year. Good to have you back, man. And I will see you soon on Pro Wrestling Journal. But before we do that, it's AEW time, man. I feel like first and foremost, there were some ups and downs this week, like any wrestling show for the most part. Very rarely do we get a perfect wrestling show, but I feel like this was a solid way to kick off 2020 with this episode.
And how do you, what you mentioned, how do you feel about this? And it's so, like, kind of unusual. How do you feel about them taking a week off with no fear from everything? Like, you know, Dark was a recap show, and they they had no Dynamite, right, at all. So,
no.
Yeah, it's like, it was kind of refreshing for a break.
It's already so early in the year and you're already stealing my thoughts because I was going to say refreshing too. It is because there's so many times, and we're not going to get into the off-season argument that people love to get into with WWE, but there's so many times where I feel like there's times of the year where there's no episode needed. I, for one, was so ecstatic that they did away with the Slammies this year because that show's been the biggest waste of time for at least a decade for me. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, and NWA did it too. They took a week or two off after their pay-per-view, and then they came back, and it was just like, all right, get it rolling again, go for a certain amount of time, get to a pay-per-view, and, you know, see what happens.
AEW did it even better, or excuse me, NWA did one even better this week. Their New Year's Day episode was called the Hangover Edition. Literally, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, they can do no wrong for me right now.
And I wish that was true with AEW, but alas, we'll get to the good and the bad and the ugly. I didn't even bother looking with the ratings. I feel like that's going to be one of my resolutions this year, Drew. I do not, and I haven't, but I feel like more than ever, at any other time in my wrestling fandom, I've never cared less about ratings, just because, frankly, I'm so sick of hearing people talk about such a pointless argument right now. It's pointless.
Yeah.
They don't really matter. I'm sorry.
No, they don't matter at all, and they especially don't matter now with... There's just too many factors involved to where there wasn't way back in the day where it was a completely different ball game. So, I mean, ratings are, if you just put them out there for historical purpose or whatever, fine. But beyond that, there's no real purpose for them at this point.
Ratings,
except for money and marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's for, you know, the ratings not against each other, but per company, because obviously the higher ratings they get per whatever their, you know, point they're trying to hit is what they're going to sell to their advertisers.
I've said it from episode 1 all the way up to this here, episode 11. I'll still say it now. They need to worry about attendance and pay-per-view buys. Don't worry about ratings right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I think so far, so goodish.
Well, I mean, in any other time, like in the Monday Night Wars, these would be pretty sad numbers considering what numbers we've seen. But like you said, we've also seen such a drastic shift in technology. It's a completely different time. They should be, people online like laughing at, you know, the both sides of the Civil War, laughing at each other's ratings week to week when one wins and the other ones. These are still pretty goddamn, I'd be proud of these ratings with the state of wrestling in 2020.
Yeah, and sometimes I watch the show after the ratings have come out. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't work.
What does work for me is kicking off this show. We go straight to the action. We are from it looks like a nightclub mixed with like a bar and grill mixed with like an amphitheater.
Jerry Flynn.
We were talking about this off air. I really appreciated the fact that they didn't just have Dynamite from any other arena this week. It came from an amphitheater in Jacksonville, and it stood out way more. And I feel like looking back, this will be one of the more memorable episodes just based on the aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they had Fight for the Fallen there, which was really cool, and it looked good. So just having that change up, like we used to get on Nitro, where they go to weirdo places and they'd have to kind of adapt to the scene instead of doing, oh, we got to find an arena that our set fits in because it's got to be the same thing every week. Like, just do whatever you got. And then it was kind of smart on their part, since the Khan family owns the arena, then they probably didn't have to pay anything.
Exactly. It's no different than same thing as Dad did when Dusty him and Eddie Graham would just keep going to the armories, the military in Florida. It was brilliant. I don't know. I had a joke in there somewhere, but I totally lost it. But I'm going to try to redeem it. No better way. I'd rather kick off the show. I was really pleased with how this kicked off. Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes. When I watched it, I tweeted it out, and man, compared to most of the things in modern wrestling that frustrate you and me, and this one felt a little different. It felt slower. They slowed it down. There were high spots in there, and yes, there were some no selling spots with quote unquote finishes, but I consider those kind of, you get a pass with an adrenaline spot once in a while for me. And I feel like they did that. They didn't overkill anything. This did completely what it needed to do. The right guy won in the right way. I don't have any complaints about this. And I'll go one further. Even on the commentary, they were JR kept driving home the fact that wins matter because you make more money. And I fucking love that. I loved it. I loved it when they did it back in the day, and I love it now. And by the way, Taz is back out of nowhere. And he never missed a beat because he was great on this.
Yeah, one thing I want to say, the money thing that automatically gives the rankings legitimacy that they put out every week, which automatically gives the whole thing legitimacy, which is something that is really odd to wrestling, and I really like it. Like, it's back to, remember when they used to have the top 10 in WCW every week that they come out with? I love that.
It's one of my favorite things to talk about is that top 10. We always bring it up in like every show we do.
Hell yeah. And
how do you let me segue the Taz thing into a question for you then, kind of off of that. It was really good to see Taz back, and it was like he'd never missed a beat. But how do you feel about this thing now where like they've reset the rankings on the new year?
At first I was like, oh shit, like that. Like, at first it kind of hit me like I didn't really know what to think about it, I guess. But then when they said they're keeping legacy rankings and then resetting the yearly rankings, I thought it was cool. I'm okay with that.
Right. And I've said it so many times over the years, the last thing you want to do is confuse your audience. And I feel like I'm just like you too. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, that kind of takes away. But if you think about it, let's like go in the future 5 years from now. These guys' records are going to be like 452 and 216 and 13. It's going to get confusing as shit. So it makes sense.
And the record's got to, I mean, these guys are playing it smart. The record's got to reflect into whatever they want the storyline to be too. So
Exactly. And it makes for
a whole new palette.
Just like, and we'll touch on it a little bit later, but just like they did in the Jurassic Express backstage promo with Jungle Boy when he talked about it's a new year, the rankings are reset, and it can just totally flip a guy's success.
Putting a structure around it like that and just keeping it all simple, that's the perfect way to go. Old school, simple, some pro wrestling. And what I was going to say earlier with the when you mentioned the Cody match was like, he's like the king of like the old school, like still a modern match, but the pacing and the layout. And I've noticed recently too, like in all his matches, all his finishes have been different in every match. And I think that's so unusual for anybody, in this modern age. There's always like a finisher that finishes every match, and I think all of his finishes have been different.
At certain times, Cody the person to me can be a little too woke and annoying, but on the other end of it, I like Cody, and I've seen for years all this hate on him as an in-ring performer, and I've never seen it. I've always thought he's not to be cheesy or cliche, but he's the natural. He was a natural in there, just like his brother. I feel like he's a great worker, and I'm right there with you. And I feel like for me, my favorite two guys overall in this company right now, the two most complete packages are Pac and Cody Rhodes, hands down. And that's going over Chris Jericho right now because I love Jericho, and yes, he's a legend, but he's a little over his prime right now. He's working smart because he knows he can't do everything he used to. He's still good. But I'm saying for me right now, the two guys in their prime, top of their game, are Pac and Cody Rhodes. Hands down in this company.
It's funny, too, how Jericho can still be in that position, too, because of everything else he does. It builds up to the match so big that whatever he does in the match, it's kind of like, oh, whatever.
It's the Hogan in late WCW, or excuse me, it's the Hogan in WCW late 90s effect, only if Hogan was capable of doing so much more in ring. That's what he's doing, and it's working for me.
Yeah, it's perfect.
How do you feel about head coach Mike Ditka? I'm sorry, Arn Anderson. They look like twins.
I thought it was that is really funny. I thought it was. I mean, it's always cool for Arn to be there, and I think this is obviously going to play into some sort of storyline. So I like how they're kind of making it seem more like, I don't know, something legitimate, I guess. And what really made me think that was when Arn jumped up on the apron towards the end of that match. I was like, oh, god damn it, here it comes. Like, why this whole bullshit? And then when he was just like giving him like quote unquote advice, and then he jumped back down, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Cody, the knees. Start tapping his knees.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like they kept, especially Jim Ross. He got really excited when Arn made the signal. Yeah, I thought they did a good job of explaining the head coach's duty and why he did it.
Just that people aren't stupid. They just need simple, exciting, easy storylines that just are fun.
It's no accident that right now, probably you too, my favorite wrestling promotion every week still is NWA going into 2020.
Yeah. I completely agree.
It's just like you said, the things that we like about these shows each week the most are the simplest things you do booking wise. People overthink pro wrestling so fucking much. And I get it sometimes because it's kind of like everything's been done in wrestling, and I get it. But eventually everything goes through phases, and generations of people come and go. It's like a revolving door at an old London shopping spree. I don't know what the fuck that meant. But yeah, it's like the younger audience of today have no clue who a dangerous Danny Davis or a Honky Tonk Man is unless they're that invested to go to the network and dig that deep. You know?
Yeah. I still can't imagine what it like somebody that has never watched wrestling before and they tune into like Raw right now, like right in the middle of the show, what they must think. At least the rest of the shows are, at times, I mean, they're a little out there, but at least have some sort of cohesiveness that makes sense in a flow. Like, yeah. Whoa.
I always wonder what like a true casual thinks, like during WrestleMania season when they start announcing Hall of Fame inductees and say like Razor Ramon pops up. I wonder what a casual thinks of that, like just seeing that for the first time.
Yeah.
You know?
He must have given cocaine to all the boys.
My God, purple vests. The 90s were lit, you know.
Remember we had the pink? SummerSlam pink?
Dude, he had everything. He had baby blue. I think I like the baby blue the best when you rock that shit.
That was cool. Yeah, I did like that.
Like when you close your eyes and you think Razor, what's the color of Razor that comes to your head without cheating?
I'll say like pretty much yellow, I guess.
I was going to say
Black
purple.
And yellow.
I don't know why purple. I think the one video game
I was at purple too because of the action figure I had as a kid. He had the purple.
My God, we'll actually get a way to segue and bring up Scott Hall later, but we're going to save that when we get to Adam Page. So,
yeah.
What'd you think of this match, Drew? And then we'll move on to the women.
Fantastic. Loved it. Oh, Darby Allin's every time he wrestles, more and more, I'm just like, oh shit, he's really good.
I feel like every time he gets out there, he gets a little more seasoned, gets a little more experience on a bigger stage. I feel like it's doing him nothing but favors, and it shows. And I feel like I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know who I mean when I say the word management talking about this company, but I feel like they're super high on him. Jim Ross loves the guy. You can tell when you just, still there. Jeff Hardy for me moving into 2020. He's still AEW's Jeff Hardy, that enigma character who's going to get super popular with especially kids. I feel like.
My girlfriend came in while I was watching one day, and she's like, what the fuck is he wearing?
Same. My girlfriend just leaves the room when I'm like, it's AEW night. I got to do it for the show. And she's like, well, I'm going upstairs. Women. Speaking of that, women's 4-way match for the ladies belt. This has been, you feel like this would have been hyped up a little bit more over the past couple weeks, Drew?
Yeah, I saw a lot of it like on Twitter, but that was I guess about it. But I guess they didn't have much TV either.
Right.
Yeah.
Either
But yeah,
way,
no, you'd think. Well, and it was supposed to be Chris Statlander, but she had a booking elsewhere.
it was actually her
So
final Beyond Wrestling show.
yeah.
Buddy JD attended that. It was New
Oh,
Year's
nice.
Eve. Yeah. They did like an awards thing, and she won like Indie
That's
Wrestler of the Year. So congrats to K-Stat, who's probably, besides who's in this match, Hikaru Shida, my two favorite women in AEW. This match was Riho the champ, Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, 4-way for the title. I do got to say one thing. It's not X-Pac heat. It's not heel heat. It's just crickets when Nyla Rose comes out. But I feel like, as much as I kind of have a disdain for her, I got to call it like I see it. She does kind of have a way of investing a crowd more into her to boo her as a heel the way they should by the end of it, just in ring wise, because she does a great job of being a bully.
Yeah. Whatever they saw for her reaction from the beginning when they started this whole thing where she got suspended and then this bullying thing and everything, they're going in the right direction.
Exactly.
Seems, at least.
And I feel like we'll get to that with Britt Baker in a second too. But this match, for the most part, was just Nyla beating up 3 women smaller than her. The other women got a little bit of shine, but other than that, this was, I feel like, a platform to showcase Nyla, especially after the match beating the hell out of Rio.
Which is cool because you might as well have it mean something, because in all reality we know it's a throwaway match just because Rio's going to keep the title and they just needed something because they didn't have the title match.
Yeah. I do got to say, man, I know we haven't seen her forever because I forgot who the hell Riho even was, and I get it. She was working in other promotions, prior commitments. It was a joke, people. But her theme music, and we say it about their theme. I know they're new, but God, it's terrible.
It's got that, I don't know. I feel like that's the music I hear coming from the upstairs of my house all the time.
Is Rio... Yeah, she's good in ring. She reminds me of Kairi Sane, just in her style. But should she be as over as she is? Or do you think this is kind of just a bunch of pizzazz?
That's funny you said that. I was listening. What podcast was I listening to? Oh, Jericho's podcast is the latest ones with Marco Stunt. And they were talking about all the heat that he was getting and everything. And Jericho said, well, over's over. No matter what it is, it's over. I mean, if it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's over regardless of... I don't know what... I don't know what it is. I guess some of her matches have been pretty exciting, I guess.
Right. She does have the David and Goliath thing going with her into every match, kind of like Daniel Bryan does. But I feel like the more... Good.
Well, I was going to say, she's just like a smiley person that you want to like root for, I guess.
But when does that get old? Because I remember when everybody fucking loved Bayley. The marks, the kids,
I think Riho's is different, though. Riho's isn't forced. It's just natural.
Right.
It's not a gimmick.
I kind of feel like, too, the more people are exposed to Shida, that she's kind of just going to be kind of in her shadow a little bit, because I see so much more in Hikaru Shida. Her and Chris and Statlander are my 2 favorite women in this company right now.
Me too. And I think Shida, I still think she's probably going to be a major player coming up, for sure.
I do too. And I think they see huge things for her.
Oh, yeah. She just moved here, too, which I think...
That's always a good sign,
Good for full time.
Right. And as much as I hate to do this, because I like her so damn much, she's so nice in real life, but save the worst for last. Man, I know that sometimes...
I agree.
I really wish it really worked like that. Like, oh, whoever you kiss, you get some of their talent. But no, there's a lot of work here that needs done with Britt Baker. And it was glaring, probably in this match more than ever, Drew.
This one, well, sadly, when you say that, I'm like, I don't know. A couple of those last ones are pretty... I don't know. I guess at least it's not completely ruining her yet for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why, but maybe this whole her getting pissed off thing will give it a little like fire. But yeah, she's gonna have to get to the training gym or something.
Mine was kind of a big palette like Bob Ross would have. Yes, the in-ring was very stiff and rigid, and it still looks like nerves are a factor. I'm just kind of calling like a C. I'm not trying to be a dick because, like I said, I like her, but also, like you said,
Yeah, that's a cool comment though. That's a good.
the nerves thing.
Yeah.
Say it all the
absolutely.
time on this show, man. Like, this is such a young roster, too. A lot of people don't realize that.
Oh yeah, this is going national, millions of people, national TV live. Like, fuck yeah.
I mean, some of these guys, like a Private Party, a Marco Stunt, Orange Cassidy, what the max they've ever performed in front of us had to be what, maybe 3,000 people, if that.
Yeah.
Before.
If you think about the guys that are really used to this, that are even on the roster, I mean, it's only a handful.
Yeah. But when I bring up my big Bob Ross palette, I bring up what you kind of talked about, Drew. There was a post-match segment here, was supposed to be a translation interview backstage with Michael Nakazawa and Riho. All of a sudden interrupted by Britt Baker. And my God, it's so refreshing to review a show and say what a company should do booking-wise and actually see it come to fruition. They're going the route of making Britt Baker seemingly from this kind of this elitist, well, I'm the hard worker and where are you, this anti-indie heel thing, which I feel like I've said since day one they should do. They need to heel Britt Baker. Then you beat her down to build her back up as a face in a way. And that works so much more than just shoehorning someone in. And yes, she's very likable, but there's so many flaws in her promos, which with this promo right here. Okay. This was simply Atrocious. This was atrocious. I've criticized Bailey over the years. Dude, this was borderline pathetic. This was so bad. This was porn levels of bad acting.
On a good note, I did realize, I know one way to really like Michael Nakazawa is I think he's just AEW's current Sonny Ono.
Yeah. Just a horny Sonny Ono. By the way, did I spell atrocious right? I don't want to be a jackass on my own show.
No, I think you did.
All right, sweet. Nailed it.
I'm pretty sure.
What did you think of this little...
Roll back the tape.
With this awful performance center level?
I like the... Okay, let's say I like the intent. But yeah, the promo was pretty bad. But the overall intent, like the story, like I get where they're trying to do. It was just the delivery was kind of...
Yeah. I hope she improves because there is talent there. I mean, she's got a great look. Her gimmick is its gimmick. It's built in.
I think that was because you could hear the promo and you knew what it was going to be, and you could tell that she had some legitness in it. She still just sounded a little nervous on the bottom end of it.
Mm-hmm. Let's move it along so I can bust the balls, or apparently the tiny balls, of Jackass Janela, who is apparently supposed to have a backstage promo here. Before he got literally 3 words out, he kind of paused and looked weird. We go down, we see an arm, Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian while she hits a low blow. I don't know if you saw the tweets today, Drew. God, I hope this isn't kayfabe. Is it kayfabe? Come on, tell me it's not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Damn absolutely. It. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, apparently he's got a tiny little Janela down there.
Yeah, they're totally working it. But yeah. I guess that means it's a match with those two.
Either way, I'm glad that Superbad's getting TV time. He's a tremendous talent. He's criminally underutilized right now.
I think he's great. Yeah, I think his gimmick's cool too. Whatever kind of is, I like it.
All of a sudden, we get the following announcement is paid for by the New World Order graphic. Wait a minute, that's not what happened. I actually liked this. I'm not going to lie. This may be the first thing Dark Order I've ever liked. I'm going to say it.
I like it more and more every time, to be honest. The more stuff they do and the kind of more outside the box they're thinking from where it started, where it was just kind of a tag team, and now it's becoming a whole thing. Like, and it's not stupid yet, which it could get stupid really fast, but it's not yet. So I'm intrigued to see where it's going. I think they're obviously planning something really huge with it, but I don't know what.
I feel like it got stupid with ripping the esophagus out of Matt Jackson's throat or whatever. But I feel like right now we're kind of on the mend. Like, we're not exactly putting Band-Aids on bullet holes. They're kind of like paper cuts. Yeah. Like, we're kind of fixing things a little bit, fine-tuning it before we fuck it completely up.
Wait, learning from your mistakes? What?
Super Showdown!
It ain't so. Yeah.
Let's get to something which I thought I got. You know what? I was surprised once again. I put a tweet out the other day, and it was like one of those "What's your unpopular wrestling opinion?" thing. And I got to say it, man. For me, it's Dean Ambrose has still been silly Dean Ambrose for the most part. But right here, I didn't see that. I saw, especially during his entrance, I saw a completely chip on his shoulder, what he needs to be, badass fucking Jon Moxley for once. And I don't know what he's been doing his little time off, but he needs to do more of it. Probably working in Japan helps. Just keep doing that shit. But I really loved this match too. This it gave Trent enough, but it didn't give him too much. Like my complaint a couple weeks ago with Jesus Christ, I'm so forgetful this week. I'm sorry. It'll come to me in a second. Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy, when they had their pay-per-view match, I felt like they gave Buddy Murphy a little too much in that match, whereas Black should be just this killer right now. It was a perfect way to showcase Trent.
Well, it wasn't a squash, but it also kind of it gave them both a lot, but it also showed how dominant Moxley can be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and it also made me aware to the fact that we may have the next Steve Austin on our hands with the reactions Orange Cassidy gets every week, more and more.
I know, right?
God.
By doing very little, which is, hey, I'll give that guy props. Wow, he's selling T-shirts.
I'm sure Colin and a lot of people think that have listened to my shit over the past couple of years. They probably think, because I'm more in the Cornette camp of philosophy on wrestling and stuff like that more times than not, that I have no room for comedy in my wrestling. That's so untrue. I love Dude Love back in the day. For the most part, I love Mick Foley's my favorite wrestler of all time, so that's pretty much a given. But this is probably the only comedy gimmick in modern wrestling I love. I can't help it. It's because it's not like he's going out there and winning matches when he does it. It's what it needs to be.
It's very, very little, which is, exactly right. It's exactly what it needs to be. Any more would be too much, and any less would be not enough. It's just, perfect.
And I feel like the times when he needs to get his comeuppance because he's out of his league, that happens.
Yeah, and, like you said, they're not going to give him, they could, but later on, but they're not going to give him singles or even tag matches. They put him in 6-man tag matches before, but then he can just kind of do a spot and then get back on the apron.
And finally, believe it or not, my God, a company where a guy hits a finisher on the outside, especially right when Moxley hit the paradigm shift on the ramp, he just rolls him in and hits 2 more, and that was it. It's not like he kicked out. God forbid.
It sounded really cool on the ramp too.
It did. It sounded a little scary actually. Good.
Yeah.
Like you said, not a squash match. I don't want to say enhancement match, showcase match. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it made Trent look good. People know who he is.
Yeah. I also feel like Sammy Guevara, who came down after this, he's starting to grow on me a little more every week too, especially when I saw him with SCU, which we'll get to in a little bit backstage. But he came down after this kind of mocking the fans, and he literally stealing food from people. I don't know if they didn't have catering yet because they're such a new company, or he was hungry. But he's saying, getting on the mic, blah, 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 all this shit about this. Do you care about this angle about Moxley joining the Inner Circle, or do you just think it's gaga just to transition and kill time to the pay-per-view, honestly?
I didn't at first, but I'm kind of curious if it's going to be anything. Is it just going to be, I think we all assume it's just going to be him being no, and beat him up, and then go to the match. But
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they'll have something clever to cap it off with. I think it's just kind of flat and nothing to it yet, but maybe that's the point. I don't know. I'm
kind of there with you. I'm in no way completely invested, but at the other end, I'm like, well, let's see how it plays out. I'll stick around.
Yeah, it's got to have something. I'm guessing besides just that and then the match.
Yeah. This pretty much transitioned right into, after a break, a little picture-in-picture action, which I gotta say, speaking of that, I feel like this week they've done probably the best job they've done on any episode of Dynamite, where on the picture-in-picture, they're not giving away all this good shit in such a tiny screen. They're getting better at timing it out, I felt like.
Yeah, and where you're watching it and you're going, I wonder what they're saying right now. What's going on?
Yeah, now in the picture-in-picture, it's just Jim Ross out of character, what's my line? Just a little mumbling.
Damn it, Excalibur.
Yeah. By the way, what's with the they're all in a rap group now with their hoodies, and instead of but you know what? I was thinking of it. At first it looked silly. It looked completely ridiculous seeing Jim Ross like that, but I'm also thinking, you know what? It's different. It's not guys in sports coats for once.
Yeah. They're probably be comfortable.
It's a alternative, if you will, Drew.
An alternative.
That was terrible.
Atrocious.
This segued into Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, who got a pretty damn good reaction himself. He's pretty much his first in-ring back since the angle with them breaking his arm. What'd you think of this match, Drew?
Man, how weird was? Did you guys talk about when they broke his arm? Did you talk about in '92 when they broke his arm in the car? Or no, was that Wyndham?
We did not, because I have no clue if Colin even knows that's a thing, to be honest.
You remember that though, right?
Yeah, totally.
Wait,
that was shocking
Wyndham?
as shit as a kid, because like before that, it was like the Horseman breaking Dusty's arms in like '85, but we were so young then, we didn't really get to see that play out live. But that was like the first time we saw some shit like that.
It's like Clash of the Champions or something.
Mm-hmm. We always do it. Our old man wrestling fan can't help themselves. They always come out there.
I love it.
Sometimes I wish I was reviewing WCW from '92 than most modern wrestling, to be totally honest.
We'll get there.
What did you think of this match? Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, Drew.
Good. I liked it. Didn't hate it. It was good. I think they... yeah, I remember like a couple things that were just like, whoa, but, you know, it was entertaining.
It was fine for me. It wasn't like the end all be all by any means. It was just kind of, you know, it was an old vet and elevating a young kid until and he hit it flush for his age, especially that Canadian Destroyer on the apron. And at first I was all about it because Sammy sold the fuck. I credit Sammy Guevara selling that. I was like, that's it. And but then, you know, he didn't kick out. There was like interference from Hager, but then immediately Sammy Guevara like popped up to his feet, and I was like, really?
That just reminded me in that the women's 4-way too. Wasn't there like a 3 count, and then somebody kicked out, and it was like the whole front row was just like, what the fuck?
Drew, I'm so excited to have you filling in for Colin. I think we even forgot to talk about the finish of that women's match. We'll do 2 seconds on it. It was that sloppy miss back to Britt Baker. It was like a Riho rolling up Britt Baker, but it felt like Baker was in the wrong angle or something.
When I saw the replay, I kind of got what happened, but when I saw it live, I was like, wait a minute, whose shoulders were down?
Yeah. Total clusterfuckery at the end of that women's match. I do not recommend that match by any stretch.
Yes, skip it.
Skip it. Yeah, you could probably skip this. You're not going to really miss anything other than them just playing more into the Hager and Goldust feud after a pretentious fan.
I mean, are we assuming that'll probably be Hager's first match?
I'm assuming, and I feel like they're going to do this story of him kind of just steamrolling Rhodes to build him strong.
Yeah, I could see that. They've probably been in the ring before, right?
I feel like Goldust had ring time with everybody up north as long as he was there.
Yeah.
At least on like a main event episode, something.
Yeah, right. Jacked.
Speaking of Jack, private parties at a bar, hanging out for no fucking reason. Adam Page is here stealing their liquor like an asshole. What's up with this, Drew?
He's been... See, now this is the weird thing where they got to figure out how to tie it in a little bit or at least promote it, but he's been becoming an alcoholic on being the elite.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of rolled over into this. At least it doesn't make no sense. He's just obviously a guy that's depressed drinking because, I don't know, he's losing all the time.
At least in real life, Adam Page isn't, continuously in and out of rehab paid for by AEW while they're doing the angle simultaneously.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I got to see how this plays out too, but I got to say, man, this is something I feel like I thought I'd never really see brought back, especially all the shit the Scott Hall angle was given,
Yeah, I wonder if that's why they're going kind of apeshit with it on the internet show, but maybe that's why they're just going kind of tame with it on this, where he's not like, getting crazy or anything.
Right. We'll see. He'll be on commentary later on in this for the main event and stuff. But before that, I got to tell you, dude, it's a hell of a way to kick off for 2020. What's that?
December 25th, 2013, Jack Swagger versus Goldust on WWE main event.
I don't know if I'm really sad or really proud of myself right now.
Yeah, they've been a lot of matches, it looks like, together. Raw, 6-mans, Cody and Goldust versus the Real Americans.
Oof. God, that feels like forever ago now, and it really was only a couple years ago.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
It's how fast wrestling moves, man. And it really does.
Really
It's
strange.
crazy. Do you remember, like, when you were, before we get to the MJF promo, you remember when you were a kid sometimes, did you ever kind of know what time of the year it was based on, like, what season it was in wrestling? Like, you always kind of
Always.
use that as your calendar in a way.
Always.
Oh, it's almost
Well, I used to
Thanksgiving.
have, like, I always had the middle connection because I'm the same age as the WrestleMania that's, like, current. So I always had that, like, middle connection to that.
That's both of our magical power we share. We got one up on everyone else. Sucks to be you guys. Counting by Super Brawls. I don't know.
But yeah, the season thing, it was, my entire life was laid out by the Big Four.
Nice. I'm not alone. Thank God. MJF out with Wardlow for a tremendous goddamn motherfucking promo here, Joe. Oh, even before he said a word, and I'm pretty sure this was on the picture-in-picture. He made his entrance, but before he got in the ring, he kind of went back out, and I think that's when they went to break. But while he was out, he went out of his way to kiss a minor, to hit a hat off a guy's head, to cuss out some other old man and challenge him. And I thought they really were going to get in a brawl. To go up to a dude's girlfriend and make him kiss his ring. He did all this within 30 seconds.
It was amazing. Dude's amazing.
People kissed the ring, by the way. Like 3 people kissed the ring.
You know that match is going to be fire when they get to it.
It's going to go above and beyond. I just don't want it to go too above and beyond where there's nowhere to go after that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, there's got to be a question mark at the end.
The question mark? Like the guy?
Well, I mean, that would be fucking awesome. Karate.
There's a little tie-in co-promotion with NWA and AEW. Question mark just wins all the belts, even the women's belts. Fuck it. Let's do it.
That little belt.
Coming out and giving, this was, they did build this up pretty well, even with a week off last week. His stipulations for the match finally they're going to have. One of them, he's going to have to beat Wardlow, but not only Wardlow. And I love this too, where he's like, good talk, Wardlow, when really he just gave him a look.
Yeah. He plays off him really well.
He does. That guy's money too, by the way. I feel like, I don't know why, the more I watch these two together, I'm getting Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels vibes. Like he's going to be a breakout single star eventually and have enough of MJF shit.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that exact same. Watching that promo and seeing him standing behind him, I'm like, this a year, 2, whatever. This
yeah,
with these two.
I don't know if it's how they kind of shot him on camera too or whatever, but this is the first week I've really actually like seen Wardlow out there with MJF and just looked at him and he's really seemed like a badass like threat, but not a threat like a guy with like an X factor about him, just like this star in disguise, like Deacon Batista and shit like that,
So is the stipulation that he has to beat Wardlow that same night?
I think it's on a week building up to it. May even be a Bash at the Beach. They're going to build it up to, I'm not sure. But he has to do it in a steel cage on top of it. So
that's right.
Is this the first ever AEW cage match?
First AEW cage match. Which makes me think, remember when they were teasing that whole War Games deal? Where's that at?
Mm-hmm. Maybe they just didn't want to bother going to court.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to deal with the hassle. Match beyond your pay rate. Because the WWF's lawyers are the best in the world.
Yeah.
So it's somebody I'd never want to go up against. I'm just saying in court. Even if I had a great Johnny Cochran motherfucker with me. That the WWF's lawyers get them out of fucking anything. WWE. I can't believe I just said WWF. God. You know.
Maybe it'll be a Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing 2.
Vegas.
Backstage promo with the Jungle Express. I feel like
I love Marco here.
yeah, the little rapist. Fuck is right. God. I feel like this is another case of we got a lot of work to do with Jungle Boy on the mic, just like Britt Baker. This was a little rough. As much as I like him and want to like him, Yep,
it's like the intense there point got across, but yeah, it needs some polishing.
By the way, if he ever hears this, I don't really think you're a rapist, Marcus Stunted. You know what gimmick you're doing. Don't be shy, guy.
And I think Luchasaurus did a good piece of the promo, but they had the music way up at that point. You couldn't really tell what he was saying.
Oh, the most cringe part of this thing for me was, when he got his one line in, it was supposed to be a Jurassic Park reference, because they still have, for some fucking reason, they just can't figure out audio in this company. It went mute. It was like watching WrestleMania 11, where it was like Todd Penn going, "Hey, I got back Lawrence Taylor." God. It's pretty bad.
It's mighty good, man.
Main event time, I gotta tell you, dude, a lot of this I kind of just zonked out for because I texted you earlier, and I'm not going to go ape shit here, but man, I got some fair criticisms, I feel like, because I want to like the guy. God damn it, Kenny Omega feels in an American promotion more and more. He feels like he's just trying to fit in 60 minutes of shit in 18 minutes. When I watch him, I feel like I'm watching wrestling drills. He's rushing it. This isn't the guy I saw have these classics in Japan. I don't know if it's just me. I know people are giving him shit more and more every week because he's one of those guys that aren't great at Twitter either. But this is all, strictly professional criticism, just in-ring stuff I'm doing right now. Not biased, any of that shit. I'm calling it like I see it. Doesn't seem like the same guy. And I'm not even talking about his lack of tan or how his body doesn't seem as cut. Just what am I watching?
I've been thinking, weirdly enough, the exact same thing. Like, especially after this week, like seeing what's going on, and it made me think. I'm just wondering if it's like he's almost trying to pull back too much. Like, they have this distinct levels going on right now. Like, you have the main event title picture and Moxley and Jericho, and if he's almost like trying to like tap the brakes as he goes, but he's just hitting it too hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just kind of cruising, which I get the point, and I guess he's, from what I can tell, he's really invested in like the whole backstage, quote unquote agent deal. So
yeah,
maybe he's just like not so invested into himself right now, is all I can tell.
Is it safe to say that, his career in AEW is kind of just a weekend warrior deal for him, where he's really essentially a female talent agent backstage for the most part?
I think right now that's it. He's still a good name that pops a crowd, but I think from what I can tell here, I don't know, different interviews and stuff, there's still like that his moment to come in the future for the whole thing, because he's like one of the biggest stars, they were saying, coming into the whole, like, maybe he's just waiting his turn, you know what I mean? And
right.
When it gets to that point, maybe he'll bust out and be able, and plus, I mean, the opportunities he's had to have really great matches with people have been fewer and far between with the kind of the canvas he's had to work with the whole AEW thing. And like the Pac matches have been cool, but
I've actually been really disappointed in this series.
Stuff can really sour somebody.
Right. The random tag matches, like an Adam Page, for some reason, those immediately disinterest me. Now that Adam Page is apparently, erasing Jake Roberts out there, I'm a little bit more invested just to see where that train wreck goes. But,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's less is always going to be more for me, especially for my tastes, and I've tried to say that about the Bucks too on this show. I was pleasantly surprised when I started doing this podcast. I always said that about them. I'm appreciating the Young Bucks more on American television because they don't put all of their eggs out of the basket. They keep some in. We don't have to see them all. But I feel like more and more each week too, you could say for the Bucks what we can say about Kenny Omega, because of possibly what you think, ties backstage. I could see that. It could just be, let's say it, man. What is it fair to say also some guys just never make a good transition from overseas to American television? It's totally different.
I think it could be that, both. But I still think there's that part of them that I don't know if it's exactly what they're thinking in the back of their head, but they know if they came out right out the gates and they went to that first show and it's like the Bucks and Omega are the champions respectively of this stuff, and everybody be like, oh fuck,
right
there, like, but trying to do that, trying to do the opposite of that, almost like shoot yourself in the foot, where you just start looking like shit because you're trying to put people over, but then you make yourself just look like a half-assed team when you're supposed to be like the team or the guy. And I think they're having a hard time trying to figure out that whole thing, and it's just kind of making them, I don't know, kind of
It's an extremely difficult time in just society and wrestling to book something like that too, where it's kind of like you're in that Jeff Jarrett position,
Yeah, and then I think we're also trained to be like, so the main event's gonna be Kenny Omega and the Bucks against Pac and the Lucha Brothers. So it's almost like saying, oh, main event's going to be Seth Rollins and these guys against these guys and these guys again. Like, oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
Kind of like a predictable combo.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I mean, back on, just the Jeff Jarrett nepotism kind of thing, when, you kind of own the shop, you take the best care of yourself. I don't feel like the Reign of Terror kind of helped with our, just our immediate thoughts on that either. When we see like a Kenny Omega in a title match, it's like our immediate subconscious is to think Kenny Omega is going to win just because of what Triple H did for so many fucking years,
Yeah. Yeah. We're it's almost like we have to go to therapy. Like, we're damaged people now, Travis. We're very damaged people.
PTSD.
Yeah, PTS WWE.
PTS WWE. You just named this week's episode, maybe. This match was exactly what you'd think it would be in your head as soon as you see it on paper. Pac and the Lucha Brothers against the Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite. Besides pretty much, what took place after in the finish and stuff. Just more of the same for me. Just goddamn spot fest. No fucking selling. Probably this. I don't get Cornette about shit a lot. For one, I hate his Snapdragon suplex. I think it's a dumb move. I don't know why. I'm sorry. I know some people love it, but he did a dragon.
Scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, he did a dragon snap suplex on Rey Fenix in this match. Cool, whatever. That shit looked pretty legit. Right on his head. But he immediately popped the fuck up and hit a move of his, a high spot. And I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, I get it sometimes. Like I said earlier, you get an adrenaline spot pass or two, but a dragon suplex, snapdragon suplex, and the way it was done was on his fucking head. How do you no-sell falling on your head? I don't get it. Where is wrestling at sometimes?
I'll tell you what, it takes a lot for me to be like, to call something necessarily a spot fest. I get into a lot of it and stuff, but that was a little much. Like, it just popping right back up after that. I noticed that too.
It's another reason why guys like, I get it, he's talented, but people like Dragon Lee and those guys, I just see, again, and I'm sorry, fucking pro wrestling drills a lot of times in these matches. It's just get your shit in for the sake of getting it in. And that, at the end of the day, that gets you somewhere, but what's the end game on that? Because I'm not saying killing the business. I'm saying you're just nullifying so much logic sometimes that it's like, let's just say you're watching... Pick a random fucking Sons of Anarchy, right? And blah, blah, blah. Two guys are just talking, right? He blows him away in his chest with a goddamn shotgun. He's not wearing a vest, but he just stands up and keeps talking. Well, you think the viewers of the show are going to be happy with that? Plot writing?
Hey, and next thing you know, you're going to be going down to the gym, finding two big blonde guys and naming them the Midnight Express and putting on some pink tights and getting a tennis racket.
Yeah. It is what it is. There's no more ranting on it. It is, it's modern wrestling. I just got to accept it. But goddamn, I don't want to accept it sometimes.
Hey, you still got the Cody Darby matches.
True. I feel like Darby Alley's wrestling. Darby Alley. Christ, is Kirsty his sister?
He's in the new Look Who's Talking. Yeah.
It's so crazy to think, considering just years of experience wise. Darby Allin is wrestling how Kenny Omega should be wrestling right now, in my opinion.
It's crazy, right?
And considering how reckless Darby Allin is, I can't believe I just said that, but think about it.
Hey, it's crazy when you got something to fight for.
Well, he picks and chooses when he does those insane spots, just instead of just, oh, I'm here, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true.
I feel like I ended this show being one of those guys. They're just, old wrestling is better, but I don't want to be that guy. I just want to be fair, Drew.
Well, I think above all, like, if we have to generalize a whole lot of stuff together, it's easy to be able to do that. But you're just like me and anybody else. Like, you like a good match.
I just like my wrestling to make sense at the end of the day. That's all I ask.
Yeah. There's still some of it.
Yeah.
NWA is still there.
Oh, AEW is still. I feel like it's fair to say going into this new year, I'm a fan of AEW. As much as sometimes the fan base makes me not want to be, and yada yada yada, and all the reasons we know why. I still think this is a solid wrestling show for its flaws for me and my taste. I would still recommend this week's episode, and I'm going to grade this one. I'm going to give it a B+. It pretty much, you had a women's title match. It wasn't great, but we didn't get a schmoz finish, and we got some more. It established Nyla a little bit more, another heel, which the division needs, and maybe branching with Britt Baker. We saw tremendous opener like we've been praising and stuff like that. The New Order gimmicks are getting better, Yeah.
Yeah. I think a B plus is the perfect rating for it. It just sounds right. I mean, it's not, like you said, it wasn't the perfect show front to back, but I mean, I was pretty glued to it the whole time, regardless. Like, I didn't really fall out of touch with it. Even the low points. It passed pretty quickly if there ever was one. So, like throughout, at which points there were ones. So, yeah, B plus. I like that.
Scores or not, and just good matches, bad matches, shitty angles, and all that. At the end of the day, AEW feels must see more for me than NXT each week, and I feel like that's what they care about more than anything. And it does. I can't help it. I feel like, yeah, I'll watch NXT later, but AEW, I guess, yes, it's new and stuff like that, but it just has just this. It's wrestling with an edge to it, and it's been sorely lacking. And it truly does have that kind of thing where you don't really know what's going to happen sometimes,
Yeah, and they have a good way of first week to week, and then with Dark but especially on like Twitter, social media, like I always know what's going to be on AEW when I'm getting ready to watch it. Like I pretty much know everything that's going to be on there for the most part, like the big stuff. In NXT, I never have a clue, hardly ever.
Right.
And then it makes me just kind of be like, I'll watch it whenever.
But then you get to the main rosters where they don't even announce one. Some weeks you don't get one match announced until the show airs. You have no clue what's going to happen. Where I feel like right before the main event, the little like 30-second segment before the main event entrances started, they drove home every match that's going to happen next week and why they're going to happen in 30 goddamn seconds. And it was so simple to do.
It's crazy, right?
Crazy. We graded this.
And they have
good
long multi-month long builds to pay-per-views. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine why a heel like an MJF gets way more of a reaction than pretty much any other heel in WWE right now. Can't imagine why.
Yeah.
We graded this a B plus, Drew, but I'm going to grade you as a friend an A plus for filling in for Colin this week once again. Thank you, dude, for kicking off the first show of the year with me. Truly, man, appreciate it. I can't wait to do another episode of Pro Wrestling Journal podcast with you soon. But until then, where can everyone catch you and all the fantastic writers over there?
Yeah, at Drew Ortman on Twitter. We got at KFAB Today, at PW Journal, and ProWrestlingJournal.com, where we have tons of awesome. So we got the weekly AEW review up always. We got the NXT review weekly. We're getting some more weekly reviews that are coming soon. We also got a hell of a Wrestle Kingdom preview up right now on the site. That's really freaking awesome. We got European indie wrestling experiences. We got a lot of stuff. Impact, all the coverage of Impact that everybody's probably missing but doesn't know it's kind of awesome right now. So check that out. ProWrestlingJournal.com. We got all kinds of stuff in the archive. Just go there.
If it happened in a ring, they're your thing. ProWrestlingJournal.com and us, Pro Wrestling Journal Podcast over there on ProWrestlingJournal.com. Check them out. Check me out on Twitter at the Hibiki TMD. Drew, I hope when you go to work tomorrow and you get in your car, someone doesn't run up behind you when you open the door and like break it like Barry Windham. So good luck, man.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I'll talk to you next time on PWJ Podcast. Until then, hit that red button down below. All the best retro gaming and pro wrestling goodness. This is The Alternative. Next week, Colin's back. The boys are back. The Alternative's gone, though. See you then.